Yeah. So, how'd y'all initially get started with the More the Miyagi project?
Yeah, so my director, Kevin Derrick, and we had already done two other projects prior, and we were just wrapping up our last project before More Than Miyagi, which is Fumio Demura's documentary, The Real Miyagi. And people
Yeah,
always get
yeah,
confused, so I'm going to clarify so you understand
yeah. I've
what the
seen that one. It
difference.
was on Netflix at one point, I think.
Correct, it was, yeah. So the real Miyagi was based on the life story of Sensei Fumio Demura, who was Pat's stunt double in all the Karate Kid films.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
how they met, and they became friends over the years and so forth. And anytime in the future when Pat had any stunt doubles that they needed for other projects, he would try to get Sensei Demura to be a part of it because he looks like him and so forth. And they became really good friends, just how they met in Hollywood. And we were working on Sensei Demura's project because my director, Kevin Derrick, that was his sensei, his master.
yeah,
So he wanted to tell his life story. So we did that. We finished it, and we were at the tail end, and Netflix was interested in it. So I was putting together all the final paperwork, and I had to get talent releases for everyone in place. And the last
yeah,
person I didn't have was Pat Morita's because he had passed away. So I had to find
yeah,
out who was in charge of the estate and so forth. And that's when, through SAG, I ended up finding out that Evelyn Guerrero Morita was his
yeah,
wife. So I ended up driving with Kevin to Las Vegas to meet her so she can sign up on the paperwork. And that was the week that we were doing the uh, the final cut, and we were going to lock picture for the real Miyagi before we
yeah,
send it off to Netflix. And we interviewed her. So if you look at the real Miyagi, she's in it, which is great. And then she was telling us about Pat after the interview and so forth, and she showed us this manuscript that Pat was writing, and he had almost completed it, but then he had passed away, and
yeah,
we had read some of it, and it was like so intriguing. Everything. I mean, I grew up with Pat with not just Karate Kid, but prior to that, it was Happy Days.
yeah.
That's
Absolutely. Yeah,
how I remember him. I didn't know about his comedy and that he was a stand-up comedian, but I just remember him from Happy Days and how funny he was, and then obviously, his role as Mr. Miyagi and the original Karate Kid movies. But after we left, it finally got onto Netflix, as you said, and Evelyn had watched it, and then she called us, and she was like totally moved by the
yeah,
documentary that we made for Sensei Fumio Demura. And that's when Kevin and I thought about it. And we're like, hey, why don't we ask permission from Evelyn if we can do a documentary on Pat's life story and use that
yeah.
manuscript that he had
Absolutely.
written? And basically, she gave us permission. And at the time, we didn't really have financing for it. So we told Evelyn, look, if we're going to do this, we want to be able to tell the story the way we see fit,
Yeah,
so we would want to have final cut on the picture and so forth. And she was like, yes, just, follow the manuscript and tell his story because that's what I promised Pat that I wanted. And that's how it happened.
yeah. So was there like was it tough trying to get all those interviews and have to travel and all that?
Yeah, I mean, always, I can tell you just from the very first documentary that we did, which was called Empty Hand, The Real Karate Kids, and then doing uh, the real Miyagi, Sensei Fumio
Yeah,
Demura's documentary. Always the struggle for a producer is um, making all the scheduling work, especially when you interview, the actors and the talent, and they're busy. I mean,
yeah,
everyone's busy, and I get it. Whether you're a director, you're an actor, you're a producer, or anyone that's working in the industry, aside from your personal life that you have with your family and so forth, and trying to make time for that, you're just busy with work. So, yeah, that's always a struggle to be able to do that. And, flying out and meeting them isn't an issue. It's more
yeah,
like just pinning them down with their busy schedules.
yeah. Is there any chance of it being on Netflix at any point?
You know what? I hope they hear this interview and they say yes. That would be amazing. We
Yeah.
thought in the beginning because we had already sold the real Miyagi to them, we thought, wow, it's a shoe in, they already know us and so forth.
Yeah.
And I think with the success of Cobra Kai,
Yeah.
not
That's
even
why I'm
on
surprised. Yeah.
Netflix, but the success of Cobra Kai on YouTube Red.
Yeah.
And then when we knew that they were moving over to Netflix, we were like, wow, they're gonna love this and
Yeah.
so forth. So I hope so. I hope they have an interest in it, but we still haven't gotten any sort of an offer or anything like that. So we'll
Yeah.
see.
What was it like working with Evelyn on the project?
It was great because she really trusted us. She trusted Kevin and I to tell Pat's story the way you're kind of like detectives when you're filmmakers because
Yeah.
you have your set of questions that you ask everyone, and you're interviewing a lot of people, and you kind of know what is accurate and what's not when you're
Yeah.
asking the same question to like 40 different people,
Yeah.
and you can kind of gauge. So our job was to be a detective and really figure everything out, and she really trusted us. She opened up her home. She said, this is Pat's office. Everything that you need is here. Here are boxes of memorabilia, of scripts that he had from Happy Days and this and Karate Kid, and pictures, and I mean notes and little sticky notes of that he had. Like, basically, she opened her entire home to us, and she said, "Come on in, guys. Tell his
Yeah.
story. That's all I want you to do." So she was fantastic, and she left us. She let us do what we did, and that was it. And then you know she watched it when she saw the first cut that we ended up doing for an audience to kind of get feedback, and she cried and she said, thank
Yeah.
you for telling his story. We made a few adjustments, but pretty much the bulk of what Kevin as a director, his vision and where he went with it, that's what you see on the screen.
End up her home to y'all and everything. Is that where y'all found like all those pictures nobody's ever seen before?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of stuff. She had boxes of pictures and things, that events that he would go to, or people Pat would hang around with, behind the scenes stuff. Maybe if they went out with friends to restaurants. I mean, she had everything, and not only pictures, but even a lot of the videos that you see. There's a lot of home videos that Pat would shoot, and she had there, and she basically said, here, tell his story. And that, yeah.
Yeah. So, what was your favorite role that Pat did throughout, his career?
Wow. That's a tough question. I mean, obviously, I think for me, and just like everyone else, and I don't want it to be so cliche, but I think it was Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, uh, for me, my father passed away, and when I was like 11 years old,
Wow.
12
Sorry
years
to hear
old,
that.
around that age, and I think when the movie came out, the first one, it was like 85, 84ish, 80.
84. Yeah. 84.
Yeah. So my dad passed away in 86. So I kind of grew up with Pat, and he's kind of like that father figure, you know what I mean? And then even after that, there was Karate Kid 2 and 3. And I think you just always felt that connection with them. That's, I think, the beauty that he brought to the character,
Yeah.
is that
For
he
sure.
was like that master that had all the answers, the balance, and he would tell you, this is what you should do and what's right and what's wrong, and karate is not for fighting and revenge, but for self-defense. And he taught you all those
For sure.
positive things that you would probably hear from a real father. So I don't know, I think that really hit me, emotionally and in the core because of that, I would say.
Yeah. So, when y'all were, in the process of, putting a lot of his, acting in there, did y'all have to go back and watch a lot of his films and episodes and stuff like that?
Okay, I'm sorry. When we were hearing what again?
Like, when y'all were editing in, like some of his scenes on television, did y'all have to go back and watch that stuff, or how did that kind of work?
Um, yeah, we kind of all we did different. I mean, when Kevin was going through everything, he would find all the B-roll, right? Let's just say, and he would separate it all out on the timeline when he was editing. and he would have it there. So he knew, this part is all Karate Kid related. This part is all, say Happy Days related, or
Yeah.
different other movies that he worked on. And he would have it there. So then when he would edit those segments, he would be able to plug those things in how it seemed fit to be able to tell the story in the right way to weave it all together.
How do you personally rank the Karate Kids from best to worst?
Oh, I think they're fabulous. I
I
mean,
think they're all good. Yeah.
they're amazing. I mean, you're talking about the original, right?
Yeah, the original
Yeah,
four.
yeah. I mean, I think they're great. I know some people say, well, I don't know about the last next Karate Kid. I think
I
they're
liked it.
all great. The thing is, to me, even I have kids now, a 20-year-old and a 17-year-old, and still when they watch it, it's a timeless story, you know,
Yeah.
and hence the success of Cobra Kai, which the producers did an amazing job. It's like they cater to my generation and your generation,
Yeah.
the younger generation. I think they did a great job at telling. I think it's just a timeless story about, being bullied. And nowadays, whether you're not bullied in person, there's cyberbullying. So
Yeah.
I think it's timeless, and I think it's great. So I think those were always the original Karate Kids were great, but I think even Cobra Kai, that's why the success of it is, it's just a timeless story.
Yeah. What is your? Do you like Cobra Kai? Are you a fan of the show?
Yeah, I think they did a great job. I loved a couple things that I liked. One, in uh, this last season, I loved the arc that they created for Kreese's character.
Yeah, I love that too.
Because
Yeah.
right, because you always wondered what the backstory. Why is he so
Yeah,
mean? Why is he this guy? So that whole thing
for
about
sure.
Vietnam and all that, I thought that was fabulous. They did an excellent job with that. But initially, going back even to Cobra Kai season one, I loved how they flipped the characters' lives. How, in the original Karate Kid, it was Danielson who was struggling financially and couldn't,
Yeah.
and he was on the poor side of town, on the other sides of the
Now the
railroad
roles
tracks,
are
and kind of
reversed. Yeah.
fish out of water. Exactly. And then now in this one, it's William Zabka's character. Johnny's
Yeah.
the one that's struggling. So I loved how they switched that, because they both kind of see both worlds and how it is. I thought that was very interesting how they did that. And I think they did a great job with it.
Yeah. So I remember like seeing clips of like y'all's documentary on YouTube like a few years back. So when did y'all initially like get started, with production on More Than Miyagi?
So more than Miyagi, we didn't even know about Cobra Kai,
Yeah,
because
that's
what
what I
happened
read that.
is we got the permission from Evelyn. I remember this being around 2016, and we of course we wanted to interview first and foremost immediately Ralph Macchio,
Oh
William
yeah. Oh
Zabka,
yeah. For sure.
all the Cobra Kais, as many as we could. So we started putting emails out and trying to reach out to the reps and so forth. And we ended up, uh, I believe it was William Zabka, was Martin Cove was the first one we interviewed, and then we did William Zabka and so forth, and we got to Ralph last. But I remember when we did Martin, we didn't know about Cobra Kai. We didn't
Yeah,
know what
because I
was
remember
going
seeing
on.
the clip of him years ago on YouTube. Like way, I think it was before Cobra Kai even came out.
Correct, correct. So the only thing I do remember is when we were interviewing William Zabka is we always ask him, hey, what are you up to? What are you
What you
working
working
on and so
on?
forth.
Yeah.
And he had mentioned, he goes, oh, we got something special that's coming out, and I'm not going to say anything and so forth. And that believe that he was referring to Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
And then we ended up finding out, I think like a month later, and then that's when they announced YouTube Red that they had picked it up and so forth. And initially, I think it was a lot of studios that were trying to get Cobra Kai. I
Yeah.
think Netflix being one of them, but YouTube Red ended up, distributing the show. But yeah, I think it was around 2016 is when we kind of started everything, which was before Cobra Kai was even announced.
Yeah. So, what was it like? Did you get to go to all the interviews with all the people?
I believe I was at every interview except for Isai Morales. I missed, which I love Isai, because I think my daughter's an actress, and I believe either she was or my son was shooting something else, so I was on set with them, so I wasn't there. But everything else, oh, it was Isai. I'm sorry, and Larry Miller. those two actors, I was not at their interview. Everyone else I
Yeah.
was.
Was it tough getting people like, that you haven't really heard anything out of in a while, kind of like Robert Mark Kamen, Christopher Kane, people like that,
You mean to get him to get
to
interviewed?
get them, just to get in contact with them?
Well, Robert Mark, honest with you, it wasn't very difficult. We found him pretty quick, and he actually replied pretty quickly. He's very proactive when it comes
Yeah.
to anything related to Karate Kid. You can see him on interviews.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
watched a few of those. Yeah.
yeah, he's great. I mean, so he's very proactive, and loves Cobra Kai. And I know he's very close with the producers, and they always check in with him, as he mentioned on one of the interviews that he did for us. To kind of make sure that they're getting things right,
Yeah, for
how he
sure.
kind of intended it in the beginning with the original Karate Kids. But yeah, he was great. Never had an issue. It's mostly with actors that they're constantly working on another project.
Winkler, then Ron Thomas, Sean Kane, and all those, legends.
Yeah, no, they're great. All of them are really nice guys. I mean, they're super cool and chill, and
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun. And I think there's a little bit of a surreal thing,
Yeah.
even for me, because prior to getting into the film industry, you were watching them in your living room of your house. So
Yeah.
I would
Absolutely.
watch Henry Winkler
Yeah.
be the Fonz on Happy Days. So it's a little weird to be at his home. He opens up his
Yeah.
home. He was a sweetheart, and just to be there and telling us different stories and so forth. So there is a kind of a little bit of a moment of like, wow, I'm in Henry Winkler's house. But they're all great. I mean, Sean Kanan, Ron Thomas, just everybody.
Yeah.
They're great human beings.
Yeah. So for you, was it ever tough, when y'all were having to dive into some of the, the darker parts of, his life?
Yeah, for me, I'll be honest with you, I didn't know that Pat had passed away because of his drinking. I didn't
Yeah,
realize
I
it. I
didn't
didn't know
either.
that
Yeah.
that was his demise. And I it hit home to me because I lived with an uncle lived with me for a few years, um, that he also had a drinking problem. So
Yeah.
I know what that's like. And so when Evelyn would tell us the stories and this and that and everything that he went through, it hit home to me. It really resonated with me because of that. Yeah, it was tough. It was tough to be able to hear these stories and put all this together. And it's hard because you know I think Pat was a loved man, but he was just flawed. you
Yeah.
know and at the end of the day, for me, what I want everyone to take from this documentary is he was a courageous human being, because
Yeah.
a lot of people, even with all of those things that he went through, I mean, he had so many things struggling as a
Yeah.
child,
Absolutely.
with not being able to walk for the first,
Then
9 years of
internment
his life,
camps, all that stuff.
almost a
Yeah.
decade, right? And then
Yeah.
the Japanese internment camps, and his father passing away. And I mean, he went through a lot of things, and still he achieved what he achieved. He's a pioneer, and he struggled through a lot. So it was difficult, but I think that's important for us to tell those struggles, because
Yeah.
how many people are do we have in our world that are dealing with things like this, and you want to
Yeah. A
be
lot
able
of
to
people deal
show
with the same
this
thing. Absolutely.
to inspire them, right? So that way you can say, look, if he could do it, you could do it, and you could achieve these things. Now,
Yeah.
am I sad that Pat left at such a young age? Of course. I wish
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
outcome wouldn't have been that, because he was, as you can see, he was a super talented artist, and I think he was gone way too soon.
Yeah. I mean, Cobra Kai is good, but it'd be even better if he was still around.
Oh, of course. He's like that missing link. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have Cobra Kai unless you have the original Karate Kid,
Yeah.
and you don't
I
have
mean,
the
the
original
Karate Kid's
Karate
nothing
Kid,
without him.
right? You don't have the original
So
Karate Kid
yeah.
if you don't have Mr. Miyagi and you don't have Danielson. If you
Yeah.
don't have those two
Absolutely.
elements, you don't have a show.
The one thing I do like about Cobra Kai is they kind of have him just hanging over the whole show, like his spirit, kind of.
Yeah, I when we interviewed Ralph Macchio, he told us that it was important for him to when they were pitching him the show idea for Cobra Kai and how it would all come together
Yeah,
and how they were going to write it all. It was important for him to make sure that Mr. Miyagi, his spirit is alive
yeah,
throughout the series. And that was important. I think if that wasn't the case and they were going to go with that direction and have that, I don't think he would have participated.
yeah. I
That's
agree.
kind of the what I got from what he told us.
Yeah. So, where can people find you? To for the to look for the documentary for merchandise. All the stuff y'all have.
Yeah, well, our all our social media handles is More Than Miyagi. So More Than Miyagi is where you can find
Yeah,
everything on social media. And then as far as merchandise, if you want a shirt like this Pat Morita shirt that I have wearing, or posters, or DVDs or Blu-rays, or even all the VOD links where we have the
yeah,
movie on all the platforms, you can just visit our website, which is morethanmiyagi.com, and then you'll see the VOD links there. We have the direct links literally to all the platforms, and then
perfect.
you
Yeah,
can see shirts and DVDs and Blu-rays. Everything is there. The Blu-ray is really cool because we have like maybe 12 or 15 deleted scenes that
yeah.
the director wanted to keep in the movie, but we
You
had
got
to
to cut
pull them
stuff.
out.
Yeah, that's just how it works sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to order that. But yeah, I just want to thank you for coming on and joining me today.
Oh yeah, not a problem. I appreciate your interest and taking the time to interview us. And yeah, I just hope that everyone that watches it just remembers Pat as a human being. That's it. And he was a
Yeah.
courageous person. That's all I want them to take from this.
All right. Have a good one.
I appreciate it. Thanks.